Welcome back to our live Sunday night special. Trump on defense over this news breaking today. A second whistleblower, plus new reports that Trump tested a new defense in a private call with Republicans, telling them, not a lot of people know this, but I didn't even want to make the call. The only reason I made the call was because Rick Perry asked me to. Axios first reporting that. NBC has confirmed the story. Now, Rick Perry made me do it is really out there as an argument. I can't even refer to it as a defense because it's not a defense to a crime or a high crime to say that your employee asked you to do it. Now, the Washington context here is that Politico also reports Perry will be out by November. The wider context is you don't have to blame others for something you did that's innocent. You blame others when you already know it's bad. Back with us to get into everything, we have Professor Melissa Murray, and joining us, Maya Wiley. How you doing?
I'm good.
The Rick Perry argument, thoughts?
Yeah, that's the only response, is to laugh.
We had a whole bunch of Legos on the floor at home today, and I'm like, who made this mess? Rick Perry made me do it.
Well, you know, when one of the things that's really not funny at all about this situation is that we have people, particularly young black men, who are prosecuted because they have threats against their family of violence if they don't participate in gang activity. They don't get to say, the gang made me do it. They're still guilty of the crime, even if they do it because they're afraid for their lives or the lives of their families. For a sitting president to suggest, even informally, that somehow the Republican caucus should hang with him, which is what I think this call was about, right? As we saw some senators starting to express deep concern for some of his public statements, that he's looking to shore them up, and in doing so, casting blame on someone else. We don't know enough about the call, so I do want to say that. We need more detail.
Yeah, we're getting an account about one part of it.
We're getting an account of one part of the call, and we need the whole context for the call. But any suggestion that being told to do something you must know is a crime because you had the Mueller investigation on whether or not you were improperly trying to get dirt on Hillary Clinton from Russians pretty much tells you should at least have a red flag and maybe consult some attorneys before you do that, even if you have a member of your cabinet suggesting it.
Well, and to be clear, though, when he said that Rick Perry was the one who wanted the call initiated, there might have been a very plausible reason for the Secretary of Energy to want to speak with someone at the head of the Ukrainian government. Liquefied natural gas, lots of oil reserves in that area. But it doesn't mean that
donors on the board.
but like, to be fair, to put it all on Rick Perry, yes. I mean, just seems to be obfuscation of the highest order. Yes. And again, Rick Perry made me do it. Like, that boggles the mind, but not surprising. I mean, this is totally on brand.
Well, and he's one of the things that you look at as an attorney is the fact that Donald Trump has given a different answer to what this call was about and what motivated it throughout the past week and a half, starting with, oh, well, this was because I was upset about the Europeans not putting in enough money. Then it was about corruption. Then it became, it's just a casting about for what's the best answer that's going to get me the best response.
I think what we're talking about is that it qualifies as a huge gaffe that your own lawyers wouldn't let you make because it's a triple layer cake. Like, the first layer is this isn't true. Then the other layer is it doesn't sound true because nobody thinks Rick Perry is the foreign policy mastermind of this presidency that makes Donald Trump do that which he doesn't want to do. And then third and finally is what you've just alluded to, which is it's a confession that the thing is both happening and bad, which was not where he was 10 days ago. It does seem to say, oh, I have to get away from this. I have to blame somebody.
Well, I mean, this whole week has been about getting away from this, and it just seems like there isn't a getting away from this. It seems to be getting deeper and deeper and deeper. The second whistleblower, the release of the transcript. I mean, this isn't going to go away, and I think it's time to really lawyer up with good lawyers this time.
Right, and if you're going to compare, what the whistleblowers are saying, one person the whistleblower did not highly focus on or blame was Rick Perry. I don't mean to take this too seriously. I'm just mentioning
Rick Perry has not been in play since Dancing with the Stars.
Well, I thought you were going to quote KRS-One earlier, Ari, so I was a little bit surprised by the Miley Cyrus. You know, reality ain't always the truth.
The reality TV.
And sometimes reality bites. I have something else I want to do as part of our special, and I mention this and I mean it, is we get to talk about all these interesting stories throughout the week. We have a little more time tonight, and so one of the things I asked everyone, I asked you guys, was send us your questions and we get to some of them. I'm going to do that with our great guests. Here is a question that just came in from Emma. Is there any possibility that these senators can vote anonymously if it makes it to the Senate? It seems many Republicans would vote yes if they had the protection of anonymity. Another question I have, this one from Brian on Twitter, says, who represents the president at trial if we get there in the Senate? Is it about the office and the White House counsel or his personal attorneys or both? Digging into how it's going to work if it gets there. And Catherine writes in, are the attorneys for the House inquiry going to question the witnesses or just the representatives? That is a question that raises the way that there's been debates about how effective all the members of Congress have been. As promised, we're reading some of these. We'll get to more of them online. I wonder if you guys want to tackle any of the questions.
You want to start with anonymity?
Let's start with anonymity.
No.
No, not happening.
And you shouldn't want it to happen.
No. Well, politically, I understand why people are asking. If senators are circling the wagons but really want to do something different but don't want people to know they did something different, but that's really, first of all, you'd already know just by the vote count. And so, but it isn't the democratic process.
And you're saying the founders wanted this to be an accountable system, not an anonymous one.
Well, to be clear, the Constitution says nothing about how the vote should happen, but generally these kinds of things are done by a roll call vote where you name the senator is named and you actually provide your vote, and you would want that. The constituencies would want that.
The Senate rules say that they vote according to the Senate rules, and there is no there is no secret vote in the Senate rules. So in theory, they could vote to change the rules, but they'd need a supermajority to do that. Obviously.
And that would be a tell. If you had a supermajority to do that, I'd already tell you which way you're going. What about the lawyers we might see if there is a Senate trial?
Well, this is an interesting one because the history is that it's members of Congress, so they are the managers of the impeachment. Prosecuting, right. But that does not mean, and there's no rule that says that the House can't designate other people to ask questions. I suspect we will see a replay of part of what we saw in the House Judiciary Committee, right, when we saw, or rather with House Intel, when Barry Burke was going to ask questions, and what we saw was the Congress members on the Republican side making procedural arguments about why they couldn't have Barry Burke ask questions. So I would see potentially a repeat of that.
And for the president, if we do proceed to a trial in the Senate, the president can have a mix of both White House counsel and private lawyers. And we saw that in the Clinton impeachment, where Cheryl Mills was a deputy White House counsel, Charles Ruff was White House counsel, but then you also had David Kendall and Linda Sigelman from Williams and Connolly representing the president as well. So it can be a mix there.
Great details, fascinating learning from each of you, and I know that our viewers are interested because those are questions they wanted you guys to answer, so we appreciate it. I will tell everyone, you can always give us more questions at The Beat with Ari or at Ari Melber on all platforms. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.